Requests are something I often suffix my videos with, and I wouldn't be a man of my word if I didn't follow them up, so thanks to Burn Roddy for his suggestion that I play and review The Black Cauldron from 1986. The Black Cauldron was probably one of the earlier movie licensed titles, having been commissioned to coincide with the Disney feature-length animated movie released in theatres the year before. The movie might be new to some people out there, as it didn't go down too well at time of release, not to Disney's standards anyway, and probably doesn't hold precedence over better known titles such as Sword in the Stone. The plot of the film starts with an opening dialogue explaining the basic setup. There was once a king who was so evil that the only way to keep him captive was to throw him into molten iron, which captured his spirit in form of the aforementioned Black Cauldron. And for a time, the evil of the land have been searching for the cauldron, as it can be used to summon an army of not so pleasant warriors to probably do not so pleasant things. The film then jumps right into it, first of all giving us one of those great nostalgia feelings for hand-drawn Disney animation, followed by an introduction to our main hero, Taran.
Oh, Dorban. I was just thinking.
Taran is a simple pig keeper whose dreams of being a valiant hero are not entertained by Dorban, a man more interested in him serving his magical pig, Henwen. Now, it wouldn't take a genius to figure out that Taran will get his want for adventure fulfilled, and with adventure comes a pre-functioning premise for adventure games. So how did Sierra do at recreating the charming characters and visual design of the movie released the year prior? Good grief, I had forgotten how coarse PC speaker sounds were, let alone when they tried to recreate music. Being a game from 1986, you won't be treated to visuals more impressive than something that could be knocked up in paint in about 10 minutes, but these were the limitations of the time, so it's to its credit that he's done a fairly good job at reinterpreting scenes from the movie. After clicking around for a bit, you'll find that the mouse does nothing, and instead you'll move your character with the arrow keys. Interestingly though, this game doesn't operate using a text parser and typing method, instead here we have a simple button for each command, mapped to the F keys. Once you have gotten your bearings, and realise that walking around is done in auto move, so once you tap a direction you have to tap it again to stop, you are free to explore your surroundings. Along with your interact F key, you also have means to inspect, which will prove useful in adding a little narrative to each screen or investigating items. Following in line with the film, you must first situate yourself inside Dorban's cottage, where you can loot the cupboards, robbing the old codger blind. Dialogue in the game sometimes happens when you approach a character rather than physically clicking on them with the interact button, and scrolling down the screen you are given your first objective to feed our trusty pig Henwen. For anyone who has seen the film, it is clear that it is going to stick closely to the plot, recreating to the best of its intention key moments and plot points. After fucking around a bit with some geese and invoking Linda Blair from The Exorcist, you feed Henwen, who was previously a somewhat overly cute depiction of walking bacon, but now resembles a human face on an upturned space hopper. Henwen then runs off to Dorban's cottage, triggering the setup to the real plot. As it turns out, the pig is magical and makes a vision appear in the water. The evil ruler, the Horned King, is searching for Henwen in order to use her powers to search for the Black Cauldron and raise the forces of evil to basically take over the world. It's now up to you to take Henwen to the fair folk who can hide her from the Horned Bastard, keeping the world safe. Dorban then gives you a coil of rope as a parting gift and sends you on your way. Now I know what we're all thinking here. Why not just use the coil of rope to strangle the pig, then no one can use her powers and we can all have some magical sausages? Unfortunately though, they forgot to program that particular function, so we best head off to hide our beloved hog. From this point you are left to explore Prydian in any direction you wish, and Henwen will follow you to the best she can. I'll be honest here, this is the point where I turned the game off and went and did something else, as I wasn't instantly enthralled in the opening couple of minutes, not as much as say something like Space Quest, which came out the same year. But when I returned, glass of wine fueling my intent, I did slowly indulge in that adventure game immersion Sierra is known for. Making your way around the various screens, you will notice that this game aspires to give you a sense of freedom, with the illusion of a somewhat limited but open world. A lot of these screens, however, are for the most part a simple pass-through and as such are not host to anything interactive or plot relevant. Luckily though, if you have a fast enough CPU, you can select from a number of speeds the game can run at, fast being the most useful, fastest being a bit too fast and slow being completely bloody pointless. Traversing these screens, arbitrarily searching for what to do next, does come at a price however. Throughout the game, after allotted periods of time, Taran will announce that he is either hungry or thirsty, which will need to be seen to with your inventory items before your character reaches his demise. Yes, like most C-era adventure games, and despite following the plot of a movie, our main character can still die from time to time, so saving often is the best advice to take. Dying often rears its head when you have done something rather stupid, like swimming too close to a waterfall causing you to drown, or by just falling off of a high place. These are familiar mechanics, especially compared to games of its time such as King's Quest. Other familiarities will include the point system allocated at the top of the screen. These are awarded to any correct action you take, whether or not it is relevant to the progression of the story. For example, wandering around the forest you encounter Gurgi, a little dog-like creature in search of an apple. Well actually, he asks for any munchings or crunchings, but in the film he steals an apple off you, so I pretty much knew what to do. Giving him the apple doesn't help you in your quest in any way, but does give you a few points, which I suppose if you didn't get it on the first playthrough, will be something to go back and search for if you are a completionist. It is quite difficult, as with anything puzzle based, to talk about the game without simply revealing how to complete it, so I'll attempt to sidestep that and concentrate on how hard it is. This is actually one of the easiest adventure games I have played, and I finished it without any help in just under 1 hour 20 minutes, which ironically is the running time of the movie itself. There really isn't too many items to collect or puzzles to solve, and a large number of the items you do collect I can't even remember using once. But then I suppose that could be a good thing. There really is no reason why everything you collect has to be used to some effect, and not every path explored has to lead somewhere. I spent quite some time jumping over these stones trying to reach the highest one, never figuring out the point or what I had to do when I was up there. That is of course one way to look at it. The other is that it is lacking in content, and I think this is due to the fact that it tries to tie in so closely to the narrative of the movie. For the most part, the more interesting thing about the game will be noticing a screen you recognise from the film, and up till about the halfway point, the main challenge in progression will lie in platforming of all things. If, unlike me, you didn't manage to take Hen Wen safely to the fair folk, and he was in fact taken by the big winged beast, your story will take on more of a logical progression when you are to reach the castle. After one of the more common and simple puzzles of figuring out what is in the background and foreground in order to navigate to the back of the screen, you will have to use the rope conveniently given to you by Dorban to scale the castle wall. This is one of the most annoying sections of any game I have ever played, and it is up there with the laser dodging from hell a cyberpunk thriller. Now, in order to successfully scale the rope, you must hit in sequence the up and then directional key. If you stop, you'll let go. If you hit the up or directional key too soon, you'll let go. If you didn't notice that the tiny hand pixel is too high on the rope, meaning that you need to double tap the directional key to get you back on track, you guessed it, you'll let go. After a lot of swearing, you'll reach the top and the game becomes a lot more interesting. Now we are heading towards the castle, which once inside confines us to a more claustrophobic puzzle-based setting. If Hen Wen was captured, there is a lot more to do here than I had to do, but either way it is a much better experience to the first half of the game. Your primary concern in this section is the guard, who can enter randomly from screen to screen and has to be ran away from or he will throw you in the jail. Exploring the castle feels more to me like an adventure game. There are locked doors, obstacles to overcome and different routes to consider. And spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen the film or played the game, but then again it has been 29 years, so apologies. Eventually you will receive a sword, which can be used to stun lock the guard whilst you slowly ponce away. However, if the guard manages to catch you with the sword, he will give you a disemboweling, resulting in a game over. I realise that I have delved more into explaining puzzles, which is not what I wanted to do. So, is it worth playing then? I think it kinda is. For anyone like me who enjoys playing old titles of yesteryear, it is interesting to sit down and play these games. I think it would also be a good place to start for anyone who wants to try their hand at playing an adventure game prior to something, say, Monkey Island. There is a lot of fun to be had with these old adventure games, but for newcomers they can be quite off-putting with their counter-intuitive interface and bizarre puzzle logic. But without a text parser and some quite simple progression and easy puzzles, it's much more inviting than other titles. This is, however, where the game falls down. An adventure game shouldn't take just over an hour to complete on a first run. I remember playing these games when I was little and being stumped for days at a time before I figured out where one new item was, let alone how to use it. As a movie tie-in, they have left out a lot of the content. Almost all of the film that goes down a dark path has been removed, and I feel this was to cater to a younger gaming audience of the time. It isn't a bad game for 1986 by any means, but it certainly isn't great. I personally would have preferred it to be more complicated with more content, but that's my own preference. I do feel, however, that the game is somewhat unfinished. In the end, I was left with quite a few items that I had no use for, and there are certain locations around Prydian that I feel once had an intention but got forgotten about. If you are a big fan of adventure games and are thinking of working your way back through Sierra's back catalogue, it's certainly worth a play, but for someone who hasn't experienced much of the genre, I would have to recommend something with more charm like Police Quest or the aforementioned Monkey Island. You can download the Black Cauldron for free, providing you have a whopping 300 kilobytes of hard drive space, or you can play it right now in your browser by going to serene.net/The Black Cauldron, where it has increased frame rate and mouse support. Thank you for watching and for requesting the review, and keep them coming.